Hey, this is Karla, and I'm popping in here today to talk about planting roots of resilience. And I have had the equinox on my mind this whole week. I love seasonal changes. If you've ever followed Discover Your Center, any of the work from yoga to energy to coaching to oils, I really play a lot with nature and nurture and seasons, and it's really a lot of what I've learned from growing up in a small agricultural community, and it is also has come to me through a lot of the teachings of yoga and Ayurveda, mainly Ayurveda, the sister science to yoga that rose up with it, which is really this system about just how do we live well? How do we live well? It's like the knowledge within you and me and how it's connected to something greater. And we use that to create our lives and be well in all areas, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, energetic. And so today I just wanted to invite you to pause, and some of the reflections I've had I'll share. Equinox is this unique time, fall equinox right now in the Northern Hemisphere, and we're really looking at the invitation, like there's this moment of change happening, right? And at the same time, we have balance, equal day, equal night, dark, light, and it's in balance, and it's also the seasonal change. And there is an invitation. The agricultural roots in me, the farm girl in me, just wants to say, yes, it's time to celebrate, it's time to harvest. And we can feel the change in the environment. I talked about that more in the last video I created on how, we can look out to nature and we see things are drying. There are different elements that are taking form. In the summer there was a lot of fire and heat, and now we see more dry and cold and wind kicking up. And so I see those as the whispers of nature and the little cues of nature that are coming in and asking us to take a pause, to root down, and to look back and celebrate and what have you harvested in your life up until now, and to really be present with that, and to then also look in the future, like what are we going to cultivate in the future? What will the next season bring? What questions do I want to be asking in that next season? And another reason that I just love the equinox, this year in particular, it's been really big for me. My one of my daughters, my second daughter, I'd say, she just turned 13, and she doesn't like it when I talk about her a lot. I mean, she's not around, so I'm not going to do that. But if you know her and you know me, man, she's amazing, and she's one of the most resilient human beings I know on this planet. And I have learned so much from her. I'm gonna feel like a little teary there. I have learned so much from that child. Hello, as people pop in, feel free to tell me where you're at and what your name is, where you're coming from. I'd love to see. Talking about planting roots of resilience. And just mentioned my daughter who turned 13 on Sunday, and she is by far the most resilient human being I've met on the planet, and she teaches me so much. And as she turned 13, I just had to pause and look back at so much of her life and my life and our life together. She joined our family through adoption when she was almost 4, and that may even give you hints of the story of resilience, because she is so amazing. And resilience is something I'd love to ask you, like if you have any definitions or what that means to you, resilience, pop that in the comments below. I'd love to hear, because I think we all have different ways of interacting or experiencing or even defining resilience. And the traditional definition is really about how we bounce back from things, how we can recover. And as one who studied a lot of trauma and trauma-informed parenting and worked with many clients who've experienced adversity, trauma, and big transitions, resilience can sometimes have different meanings and definitions. But one of the things that I noticed in my own journey right now is that every time I come to a season, I love the seasonal changes, and each one is an invitation to pause. Each one is such an invitation to just look back at what has happened in the last quarter, the last half a year, last year, or lifetime, and what has brought you to this moment, because everything has brought you to this moment. And if we can let go of some of the judgment, then we're able to step into creating the next moments, the next season, the next, if we want to say the next part of ourselves, who we are and who we're becoming in all aspects of life. That may be in one area, a relationship of your life. In the context of health, which is what I talk about a lot, I really look at self-care and how are we nurturing ourselves, and what are the rituals we have, and maybe what do we want to cultivate in the next season. And the fall is always one of those points where I pause and I look, because in the past I often felt very imbalanced when the season came around. When the wind kicked up and the climate got colder and school kicked in, there was just a whole new level of stress in my body and my being, and I could really feel it, and everything would feel dry and contracted, and I'd feel overwhelmed. And I can still sense when those things are coming in, but now I have so many tools and practices that are just, many of them automatic for me, or that when I am willing to just look at it, I'm like, oh yes, okay, I see this, I recognize this, and this is what I can choose now. And so I'm curious, like if you love the seasons and how they change, like are there any particular habits that you have, any particular ways that you love to root down in this season? And if we're willing to pause in the equinox, then we can look at now through the end of the year, because this is a time when I start seeing so many people, and when we start hearing the conversations, and maybe even in our own life, we start feeling the levels of stress increase. As we're moving through a busier time of the year, we're moving into season, the celebratory season. We'll have Thanksgiving here in the U.S. and all of the holidays throughout December and then into the end of the year. Hey, feel free to pop in and say hi when you're here now or in the future, and let me know that you're here. If you have anything you are curious about in this theme of resilience and what we can receive from the equinox, let me know. So one of the things that I really know is that this season has been so key for me over the years in inviting me to create habits around self-care, to create rituals that don't keep me disciplined. Hey, Sarah, it's so good to see you here. So this is a season where I always went out of balance. Like it was like I could almost count on it. And maybe I created it because I counted on it, but every fall came and I felt like I just was really discombobulated and overwhelmed. And I celebrate my daughter's birthday. I was saying earlier, Sarah Marat turned 13 on Sunday and is one of the most resilient human beings I've met on this planet. And it was shortly after our adoption that I really felt like things felt out of control, and I was overwhelmed, and all the things that I thought I knew just weren't working, and I didn't feel like I was enough as a parent and as a partner and as a partner in business and a daughter and a friend and a community member. I just felt like I was failing everywhere. Was that true? It wasn't true, but it felt really true to me. And it was also in that season of fall where the wind was kicking up and the air and things were happening and the schedules were picking up, and I didn't really have the self-care rituals in place. And I did that, and some of them are very simple, and part of that is just really looking at what do you need in your life to feel like you're rooted. And that's a little bit different for everyone. I teach and coach and share from the perspective of Ayurveda and energy healing because this is what's really worked for me. But there are so many different things out there. But it's really important to get clear on what do you need to feel connected, to feel grounded, to be able to be present in the moment. And often what will happen is we feel like we're in a point of resistance, right? If we're not willing to sort of fall into what is right now, like allowance. And that's where this season, again, is such a beautiful place. It's like the invitation. We've got change swooping in with the season. We've got balance with day and night. And there's this celebratory season of harvest. And now we get to look at what's coming. So we often like to miss the celebration. And we start to feel the anxiety or the overwhelm, and then we feel like nothing is going right. Well, is that true? Chances are there's a lot that's been going right, and you just haven't seen those tiny little things because the overwhelm is overshadowing it. If you're going through any tough times, difficult times, or adversity, times of change, it can add to that pressure and that stress. And the truth is, life is full of transitions, and part of putting some rituals in place around your self-care is really what will sustain and build those roots of resilience. And this is something that I knew when I began to step into my own self-care several years ago, I think maybe 2011, 12. And it was shortly after the girls were home. And I started to really look at what would I need to put in place. And I did start studying Ayurveda, and some of those things I took in because it was like, oh yes, this is going to work. This is just totally lights my body and my soul up. Doesn't mean that they were easy, but as I started to practice them, every day I would wake up and I'd feel like more space, more ease, not just in my, like physically in my body, like my joints weren't cracking and I wasn't feeling like all achy and contracted, but also there was a greater space in my mind, and in my emotions felt more balanced, and my soul just felt like it was opening up, like my heart could actually open up. And my heart could open up to people around me, but more importantly, my heart could actually soften and open up to me. And that is the gift of self-care. And when I look at resilience, like we're often thinking, if you are caring for someone or your family member, then you're probably looking at how you care for everyone else, and you're thinking about building resilience in your kids, and you're thinking about resilience for you. But sometimes we miss that building that resilience is really about the care for ourselves. And so in this pivotal time, I want to invite you just to a couple things that I love to do in the Equinox, from maybe the yoga tradition, breathwork traditions, and so much more, and a little bit of energy work, but just really take a couple minutes to pause this Equinox and, notice first of all that has happened in the last season, and celebrate your summer, celebrate before that, all the things, the little, the big, all of it, like put it in a bin and just let it be in front of you. And then notice the crunchy places in your life right now, and maybe you're going through a really difficult moment, transition, and really relax into that. Too often we're resisting, and if we're willing to surrender and allow all that is, then we're able, and that's where I see sort of like this balance. We've got equal day and night, and just let it all come in, right? And then use that as a way to tune into what do you want to create in the future, and what would serve you best, like without any judgment. That's the key here. A lot of times we like to judge ourselves of what's going on and what's right and what's wrong and what's good and what's bad. But if we can really peel all that away and peel the emotion away from it, it doesn't mean we don't feel our emotions, but when we let it fall to the side, we actually get to feel them. We get to feel all that we feel without moving into the head and making certain meanings of them and making them mean things that maybe don't support us. And then you can start to just ask more questions. Like the questions are, really what else is possible here? Like how could I have more ease with this? Who am I? Who am I becoming? And 3 months from now, 6 months now, a year from now, 5 years from now, how do I want to be going through all of life's changes? And do I have habits in place, rituals in place that will support me in that? And if not, then with, again, no judgment, like who or what do I need to bring into my life to make that happen? And it's no one thing for anyone. Sometimes it's a book, sometimes it's a therapy session with someone, sometimes it's a coach, a facilitator, energy healing, essential oils, a friend, stepping out into nature, looking at what do you need? Do you need more sleep? What is there? And so I invite you to just surrender to it, fall into it, notice, get real curious with those questions, and then start to look at what else is possible in the future. Thanks, Sarah. The practice of oil massage. Oh my gosh, yes. The practice of oil, thank you for mentioning that, Sarah. It's one of the most potent, dynamic practices I know. And I have a video which I share here a lot. If you've never seen it, I'll put it in the link to this video too. But self-massage with oil, it's really just taking your own healing hands and putting them on your body. And when we're going through change or feeling a little disconnected or feeling overwhelmed or anxiety, or there's just a lot of things going on, or maybe things are good and you just want them to be even better. Oil, in Sanskrit, the name for sneha is oil, and it actually means love as well as oil. And I really feel like you're just connecting to your body and you're tuning into what's going on. So sometimes you might notice, you'll start to notice things about your body before you actually are pausing to notice them. If you're doing that daily connection, and it nourishes the joints and it nourishes the tissues and the skin and so much more. It's such a beautiful, practical self-care tool that doesn't take a lot of time, because that's an excuse we have a lot, right? Like, we don't have time for self-care. When am I ever going to do all these things? You're telling me I'm supposed to move and meditate and do my self-massage and all these things in the morning before I get my kids off to school. Well, maybe not. You get to choose what works for you. You get to choose how long. You also get to choose self-care throughout the day, again and again and again. And your self-care will change. Your rituals, just like the seasons change, how you care for yourself will change. It can change on a day-to-day basis. It can change in the seasons. It can change with your stage of life. I'm going to be 50 in January, and it's like the way I care for my body and my soul and the rituals I have are constantly evolving and changing. There's sort of these principles underneath and guidelines, but as far as how that looks day to day, that really changes. And how do I know this works? Like, how do I know these self-care rituals work? After I started this, I just noticed a significant change in my whole body, my being, my energy, my sleep, my hormones. Everything just came back into balance, right? Like this time of Equinox. And it just became clear, like, what I needed and when I needed to ask for help and who I needed to ask for help. And I had some of those rituals, like my daily self-massage, Sarah, is like brushing my teeth now. Like, it happens every day. And it's easy, and I don't have to think about it because it's something that I know just really nurtures me, and I do it. And I'm so grateful for that. And same as, hydrating, and same as, breathing in the morning. And it looks a little bit different all the time. Oh, yes, Sarah took a class with me years ago, and I'm so grateful. Always go back to the principles of that class. Yeah, they're big, and that's why I do them again and again and again. Like, I'm teaching a course coming up here called Root, Rise, Thrive that is a lot of those basic principles of Ayurveda coupled with a lot of sort of energetic tools and mindset tools, and how we really create these habits for life, and in a way that we're looking at meeting adversity or meeting resilience in the future. The hope is that we don't, right? But the reality is that life is always changing, and life is full of transitions. So when we know that we have these rituals or habits in place to nourish, like they're really on the physical level, the mental level, the energetic level, the emotional level, then when the toughest of times come along, yes, it was called Align and Thrive. Yes, Sarah took Align and Thrive with me, 5 years ago maybe. And so yes, and there's a similar, like, some of those basic principles of Align and Thrive are rolled into Root, Rise, Thrive, which starts in October, a 12-week journey. You can go to Discover Your Center discoveryourcenter.com, and you'll see it in the main tab, or / Root, Rise, Thrive. But I also do one-on-one coaching in these areas too. There's so much that we can do, and we put simple things in practice. People will come and things look really difficult, and we can simplify our self-care in a way that works for us. It's not about taking a set of rules or somebody else's system and then trying to implement it, because that will always fail. It's about looking at, what do you desire? What is the basic principle? And the principles that I look at often are like, you are nature, and like, we are nature and nature is us. And so how, like, if we receive the seasonal rhythms, and we receive the daily rhythms, and we receive universal or source rhythms, like, we're tapping into something bigger, the creative pulse that created you and me and all things, and we can surrender into that, right? So again, it's like this, can we be willing to look at all that is without any judgment, and without any judgment, because so often, and I have done this where all of a sudden I'm like, I should be over this by now. I've done this. I teach this stuff. I should have this in order. No, it's like, it's always evolving, which is why I love what I do, because anytime I'm like in energy sessions, like gifting, whenever someone's receiving, I feel like I'm receiving too. It's a gift and receive relationship. Coaching is like, we're evolving together, and I'm sharing where I am on this journey and kind of tuning into how can I help each individual kind of get where they want to go. And at the same time, it's expanding things for me, because we are always gifting and receiving, no matter what relationship we're in. That if we're willing to surrender and see, okay, what is the next thing that I'm being called to? What is the next area of life, of relationship, of health, of any other area that I'm being called to? Then we can be willing to step into that and see what tiny actions we can take to put into place. So surrendering to all that is, tuning in, getting curious with questions. Like, really, questions are so key. They will always empower you. And if they're open-ended questions, because questions like, why am I not there yet? That's a judgment with a question mark on the end. It is not a true question. It will not open up space for possibility. It will not open up anything for you. It is a judgment. So we play with playful questions like, what else is possible? And how does it get any better than this? And what can I add to my life? And we open it up for a space for things to come in, your own awareness and your own intuition, right? And when you have some basic self-care habits in place, you're sort of clearing the channels of intuition. On a cellular level, you're expanding within, and you're creating space to really tap into that inner wisdom with more ease, with more clarity. The body is always gifting information, and then we get to choose what we do with it. And when we receive it as awareness and we don't put a judgment on it, then we get to choose again, and it brings us another awareness. And we get to choose again, and it brings us another awareness. So the power of questions is really key. And then who or what might I add to my life, to my schedule, to my self-care? Again, it can be whatever it needs to be. I offer many ways to support you on that journey, and would be honored to do that. Anyone now and in the future, if you see this, and know that sometimes it is a book, or maybe it's the course that keeps pinging you, or it's the class that keeps pinging you, or whatever it is, it's up to you to choose. You are responsible. And if you are willing to plant those roots of resilience, and now is the perfect time. Like, a lot of times you think, oh, well, it's so busy with school, it's so busy with this, if I just wait, then I'll do it later. Once I get through this, once I get through that. It's like, now. And things will always happen. When we moved here, I think I started that and didn't say, but like, when, everything felt like it was moving in the flow, and then we moved, and my mom began to experience aging and memory loss and Alzheimer's, and then we moved again, and then my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and so there's so many things, and this season is such an invitation to actually harvest, bring it all here, celebrate your life, be totally present in this unique moment of change and balance, and hear the whispers of the invitation to what do I want to cultivate in the future months, in the future year, in my life. Like, who am I I becoming? What is important to me? How do I step into that? How do I make time for that? And where am I at with my body, with my life, with my relationships, my whole health? And plant them now, choose something now, and then watch it grow. And this is then when we get to glide with more ease through the end of the year, a season that we usually feel the stress level ramping up. It doesn't have to be that way. Maybe we still feel that external stress, but inside we know that we've got this, and inside we have habits and rituals and connection to know that we have what it takes, and we get to show up for ourselves. And when we do that, we get to show up for the other people in our lives that we love, through the blissful times and through the times of change and through the toughest of times. So thanks for listening to me today and sharing some of these things, Sarah. I'm so glad you're here. And anyone else in the future, please respond to any of the questions. I'd love to know what your definitions of resilience are. Like, what are habits that you have in place? Is there something that really helps ground you, makes you feel rooted, and has helped build resilience over the time? There's no right or wrong to that. And if you'd like help or support, I've got a lot of free resources on my website and YouTube, and even on my Facebook page, Discover Your Center with Karla, which is where this is being created. But I also offer one-on-one coaching, group coaching that starts Root, Rise, Thrive in October. And Access Bars is often a beautiful, energetic class where you get to learn this really simple and accessible hands-on energy tool that I have seen change so many people's lives and open up the space. So if you feel like, if you're in the phase of I don't know a lot, like I don't know what to choose, I don't know what I need, I don't know what I choose, then often access bars is a beautiful way to open that up. All of my local coaching clients usually come in for a bar session, and we look at how do we use that as a tool for self-care too. So go out into the world, be you. This equinox, just suck it up. Like, hear the whispers through the wind and the colors and wherever you are, how it's changing. It's changing here in North Carolina. It's changing in the north. It's changing in the south. Sometimes it's more subtle than like totally in your face, the seasonal change. But listen, tune in, ask questions, and open the heart, and then see what else you can add to your life to make it as beautiful as you desire it to be. Thanks for the hearts. I love hearts, they're so sweet. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for all your beautiful contributions here today. Go out into the world and root down, rise up, expand out, thrive. You are resilient. It's in there. Let it come through, build that, and yeah. And a belated happy birthday to my daughter Marette. We had a beautiful celebration. My greatest inspiration for resilience. Like, she is it and she inspires it. Thank you. Take care.